to our first video of Level 1 preparing for open play. In this video, we're going to cover all the basics to get you in the arena and get you firing. Now you may notice I am dressed in pretty much all black. Now of course it is branded all black. Make sure to check out our links if you want to grab your own Painful Truth TM merchandise. There's a reason for that. Inside the arena it is dark and you want to be as inconspicuous as possible. You don't want to show up. Anything you wear white is going to reflect off the black lights and make you stand out like a sore thumb. So it's always good to wear as much black as possible. Now the only difference in what I'm wearing is when you're playing in the arena, you're not supposed to wear a ball cap with a bill. That's because this bill can actually obstruct your opponent's beam from hitting your headset sensors. So you're either going to want to wear nothing at all on your head or a beanie like this. That's right, it's a Painful Truth branded beanie specifically designed for playing laser tag. Do you want to get one of your own? Ask me how. In the meantime, back to the video. Now that you're dressed and ready for the game, you gotta put on your pack.
Please pay attention while I show y'all how to put on y'all's vests.
This is the pack you'll be wearing whenever you play any type of laser tag. Open play or competitive, they're all the same. It consists of three main components. Number one, your headset. As you can see, the headsets have sensors on the front and back of each side. And this is one of the main ways that you're going to get hit so that your opponent can register a point. But of course, you're going to be trying to hit their headset to register your points. You'll be doing that by shooting with your phaser. You'll notice on your phaser there are two lenses. Out of one side, your beam will come out. The other side is for accepting a beam. So your opponent can hit you in the headset or the gun, and conversely, that's how you're going to score points as well, by hitting them in either the headset sensor or their gun sensor. The third part of the pack is one you're really not going to have to worry about, but it is the computer relay pack that is located in this pouch here. This sends all of the information to the main computer at LaserStorm and registers all of your information, especially if you are a member. Don't mess with the computer pack, just leave it be. Now that we're all suited up and ready to go, it's time to go in the arena. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the owner, John, has given us exclusive access to this arena just for these videos. So you know what that means? It means I get to press the button. That's right, this LaserStorm is one of the only ones in the country that has a button in the ready room that allows them to start the game on command. And I'm gonna press it.
Push the button.
All right, now that we're all suited up and the game is on, it's time to head into the arena and start to play. When you first walk into the arena, it's gonna look like this. As you notice, everything is lit by the black lights. They are providing the only light in here, but of course everything is reflecting off of the awesome neon paint and the barriers inside the arena. Now this is really good for playing the game, but not so good for teaching you about LaserStorm. So let's make it a little bit brighter in here, just so we can talk about some of the ways that we can get you ready for open play. Much better. So as you notice, it doesn't look as cool, but for our purposes right now and getting these videos underway, this will be perfect for me to break down and show you some of the basics in getting you ready for open play. The first thing you're going to want to do when you get into the game is energize. You can't fire or play the game until you do. There are energizers placed all over the arena, and some of them do move based on your current arena design. Make sure to familiarize yourself with the current arena map so you can know where the energizers are. Now, let's energize and let's get in the game. That's all it takes. The great thing is, in laser tag, every time you get hit, you can simply re-energize and get back into the game. As opposed to some other sports like paintball, where once you hit, you're out. In laser tag, faster you re-energize, the faster you get back in. Now that's one of my first pro tips I'm gonna give you. Don't waste time when you get hit, especially if you are playing a competitive laser tag game like leagues, regionals, or of course nationals. The more time you waste, the worse position you put your team in. As soon as you get hit, make your way to the nearest energizer, energize, and get back in the game. We're energized, we got our headset on, it's time to play. Now let's talk about the number one basic principle of laser tag, and that is your posture. You may think of a million other things, especially when I show you some of the videos on here, but it all comes back to your posture. You might have noticed in the open play videos we showed you, a lot of beginning LaserStorm players tend to play something like this. They hold their gun out with 2 hands and they kind of walk around this way. Now, of course, there's no right or wrong way to play laser tag, but if you want to play like a pro like me, let me show you how you do it. As opposed to shooting like this, where you're holding your gun out in a complete open, giving your opponent a great target to shoot at, you're going to want to crouch down just a little bit, place your phaser alongside your chin with your thumb on the firing trigger. The reason you're doing this is the phaser is resting on the inside of your chin and will follow your head. No matter which way I look, my gun is going that way and is always with my line of sight. If you tilt your gun slightly upwards, it will actually fire in the exact lane that your eyes are looking. If you take a little bit of pressure when you put it against your chin and apply it, your gun will not move no matter how much you move your head. This is a prime shooting position for many of the top players. Now, once again, when we get into player interviews, you're going to see there's different ways other players shoot, but this is a great way to get started and an easy way to center your shot and have it follow your line of sight. Now let's test out this new posture. Let's once again back up and look at how we talked about most open players, how they shoot. They shoot kind of like this. So as you can see, they're walking around and they're shooting, and their gun is just making for an excellent target for their opponent. Now, let's shoot the way we were talking about. On the chin, thumb on the phaser, and as we walk around, as you can see, even though our gun is staying straight, we are moving around, and we are now a moving target, much harder for our opponent to shoot. Also, watch as I shoot now, no matter how I move or how fast I move, my phaser is going to fire straight with my line of sight because of where it's placed on my chin. No matter what I do, even if I go like this, my phaser is firing exactly where I want it to. This may feel a little uncomfortable or even a bit strange when you first try it because you're not used to shooting this way. It's important to practice, and open games are a perfect opportunity to do that. Even if you just want to put your phaser in the position we talked about and walk around shooting. Practice shooting where you're going to see the other players, or even if you're just going to shoot at barriers, you'll be able to see exactly where your beam is going. Once you get comfortable shooting this way, it's time to tweak your posture a little bit to make yourself harder to hit. We already know where your gun is, and if you see a beam coming, you can simply move out of the way and get your gun out of the lane your opponent's shooting in. You can also do this with your headset as well. When we're standing straight like this, not only do you have a sensor here for your opponent to hit, you have your head sensors here. A lot of the top players will tilt their heads slightly. Not only does this make their head sensors harder to hit, it also gives them a little bit of a better angle when shooting downwards. So, as I'm standing like this, I'm going to tilt my head this way. It just raises my head sensors slightly, but it does make them a little bit harder to hit. And now when I'm shooting down, I have a better view because I'm looking down the barrel of my gun. Make sure to try that out. You can hold your head back, you can move it forward, however is comfortable to you. I actually do a little bit of both, and I like to play a little bit on the side. So here's another painful truth pro tip. When shooting in this posture, I actually turn my head to the side this way and use this eye down the barrel of my gun to get my sight. That way, if I want to crouch over and shoot to the side, I have a dead-on shot on my opponent and he's trying to shoot down at my sensors. Statistically, any player trying to shoot down has a disadvantage because it is an unnatural movement. It is a lot harder to take your gun up and shoot downwards. It's easier to shoot up. So the lower you can make yourself, the less of a target you'll be. That's actually a technique we're going to explore a little bit more in future videos. Crouching and getting yourself out of the way and making yourself harder to hit. But for now, experiment with those different head positions. Back, forward, and sideways. See if that helps your game. The final topic we're going to cover in this video segment, Level 1, getting ready for open play, is going to be basic movements. There are a bunch of different ways to move, and when you're playing competitive laser tag, as we discussed, you can do a lot of the things you can't do in open games. We can crouch, we can jump, we can run or briskly walk. You can use all these things to your advantage. A lot of players bend. Now, if you're like me and a little bit older with a bad back, this can wear on you, but it's still very effective. What I mean by bending is they will get themselves in this position.
That hurts me just looking at it.
Bend back and shoot. This does make it very hard for your opponent to hit you because your beam is coming from this side, but your body's actually over here. Naturally, they're going to want to fire from the direction where the beam is coming. So if your body's on this side, you're a lot harder to hit. Once again, do at your own discretion because your back might be sore the next day. Same thing with crouching. One thing you will notice, especially when we start talking to all of the different pro players, we all have very strong legs. There's a reason for that. A lot of us crouch and then spring back up very quickly when we shoot. We go down and come up. This is actually the way I play. I have made a living at playing very low, and I've actually been told I have a very good jump shot. This isn't just me trying to be cool. There's actually people that have said that. Jump shot being where I start low, come up, and fire at the apex of my jump. That takes a lot of practice. You're not going to get it right away, but it's definitely something you might want to try. As we go through some of the videos, you're going to see players utilizing all these different movements. And to be honest, when you watch the videos, it might look a little bit crazy. You're going to see a lot of one-on-one, we call them dances. That's two players going at it one-on-one in the open. They're both jumping, moving, crazy. It's going to look weird, but they're doing that because they're trying to make themselves impossible to hit while still firing and trying to hit their opponent. These are some of the most fierce battles in our game, and games are usually decided on who can dominate one-on-one open play and who has the best, well, dancing. So we'll talk about dancing a little bit more in other videos. That's actually a very advanced topic that we will get into probably in level 2, level 3. But for right now, if you do come across a player in the open, remember, instead of just standing there and trying to shoot them, crouch down, move back, lean, do something to make yourself hard to hit while still maintaining a good shot on your opponent. Sounds easy, right? It's going to take a lot of practice, but trust me, if you practice it the way I'm telling you, you're going to see it leads to success, and you're going to start really racking up the player hits. Now that you have the tools and a better understanding of what it takes to become a successful open player, the next step you're going to want to do is become a member. Why become a member? Number one, you get to pick your own alias. Like I said, mine is Ice. You get to stick with that, and that will print on your scorecard at the end of every game. Number two, all of your stats are going to be kept cumulatively. Every time you go in, you're going to be earning player points. It's going to help your skill level increase. That will all be reflected on the statistics that are kept here at the store. One of the other great perks about having a membership is you're going to receive your own personalized data card that's going to store all of your information. Like this one here. Of course, this one doesn't say Ice, it says Red Dog, who is actually one of the top players in the game. I have a ton of cards that say Ice, but just between you and me, I kind of like to have this one. Plus, he doesn't know I have it, so. Now, I mentioned scorecards. At the end of every game, you are going to receive a scorecard. Let's take a look at this graphic that's going to break down everything you need to know when looking at your scorecard. All right, so let's take a look at the scorecard. When you first look at this scorecard graphic, it might come off a little intimidating. There is a ton of information on here, but that's okay. I'm going to tell you exactly what you're going to want to key in on, the main categories that are going to track your progress, and the things that we can look at later. The first thing you're going to look at on this scorecard graphic is player unit 28. So if you are not a member and you go into the game, whatever pack you wore, that's what player unit's going to come up. So if you wore pack 30, it would come up player number 30. Now, if you are a member, and we're going to assume you already are, you got to choose your alias. So this is where your alias is going to show. So we're going to go ahead and put Ice on there because that's what's going to come out when I come out of the game. Your team here, it shows this person was on the red team. If you look over to the right, you can see the score. The red team won. So, hey, congratulations. Score, shots, and accuracy, those are all great things to look at, but we're not going to concentrate on those right now. That's going to be a little bit further once we refine your game and we start working on those different categories. Your skill level and your points, this person was able to achieve skill level 2 in the open game, but because they're not a member, when they go in, it's going to reset and they're going to start back at 0. If you are a member, that is going to be cumulative and it's going to keep getting higher and higher. Rank and MVP score is something you can look at as well. When you are a member, it's going to be harder for your MVP and your rank to go up. But like I said, that's something we'll review later. Here's what we're really going to key in on. Given and taken. This is how you're really going to track your progress. When you go in and play the game, you want to be positive. That means you want to give more hits than you take. This person, not sure who they were, but gave 75 and took 15. So when we're looking at this, they are going to be considered a plus 60. in the game because they gave 75 and took 15, which means they gave 60 more hits than they took. Now, they also had 4 player hits, as you can see here. I'm sorry, 4 pod hits, arena hits. Now, these are worth 5 points each, so you can factor those in as well. But when we're talking about plus minus, you'll hear a lot of players come out of the game and say, I was plus 10 or I was negative 5. That means they were plus 10 in their ratio or they were negative 5. They took 5 more hits than they gave. So a lot of players don't want to be negative. Now, negative is not always a bad thing. If you are a pod runner, sometimes you're mainly just trying to get those pod hits and rack up the player or the points that way. So those players tend to go a little bit more negative because they're always running into a stacked defense full of players who are waiting for them. As we said here, arena hits 4. You can see that corresponds right here with green base 4. So that's an extra 20 points. So this person was plus 60 and then an extra 20. So they accounted for 80 points out of their team's 331 points. Not bad at all. As we look down on this area here, you see the player units of the opposing team. Unit 22, Unit 8, Unit 5, Unit 6. Those are all players on the other team. Now, if they were members as well, you're going to see their names. So let's just say you were playing against me, and I was player unit 8. Instead of seeing player unit 8, you would see ice. And according to this scorecard here, you outshot me 7-4 for a plus 3. I mean, that's pretty hopeful and probably not going to happen a lot, but hey, I'm not perfect. So congrats, you outshot me. You had a really good game. That's it. That's what you really want to look at when looking at this scorecard, is your hits given, hits taken, and figuring out your ratio. When you first start, you may notice you're going negative, especially if you're playing against a bunch of members, but that's okay. You're going to keep getting better and better. You're going to start out shooting people, and then your ratio is going to go up. So that makes the scorecard a little bit easier to understand. This graphic is also displayed at Laserstorm at McKnight Road, so you can always refer back to it. If you have any questions, make sure to just play this video again, or send me a message directly, and I can talk to you a little bit more about the scorecard and how it breaks down. So as you can see, there is a ton of information on that scorecard that you're going to want to check out when gauging how you played. The best part is, if you're already a member, like I talked about earlier, all this information will be cumulative and you can add to it. You can add to your hits given, your bases given, everything, your accuracy will be tracked at your home store and you'll be able to follow your progress. If not, everything will simply be reset after every game and you can't really track if you're making any improvements. So that completes our first video of Level 1 preparing for open play. Hopefully everything I showed you and all the information you gained will help you go in, enjoy the game, and be successful. Now it's time to move on to the second video of Level 1. Let's play.